Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Stepping Up with Stuch. I'm your host, Scotty Stuch. With me today is a longtime good friend, Gunner Allen Lindbloom, rocking his apparel company today, Our Thing. Just got a track jacket all the way fresh from Detroit. Thank you for that, Gunner. Fits
My pleasure.
perfect. Got a lot of compliments down the beach in it.
Shout out to Scotty Stuch, supporting the cause. We got him hooked up with a flying new jacket. It's custom made. Make sure to check out your own. If wherever city you're from, represent it with pride. I'm not saying that you're a gangster if you wear these clothes. I'm just saying I think we all got a little gangster in us. And if you don't believe that, let somebody slap your mama. Watch how fast your gangster comes out. It's not about that though. Just about being a little on the edgy side. You know what I'm saying? It's a double entendre. Some people don't even know. If your city is on it, it says Our Thing, cool. You're representing your city. That's all anyone needs to know. If you put the Our Thing together, now they're like, huh. Custom made your stuff, ourthingapparel.com. We got you. Custom made, shipped right to your door. So make sure to check it out, ourthingapparel.com. And thank you again, Scotty, for supporting the cause. We're going to get you some more stuff, man. I need to send you a set of my books. I'm out.
Nice. Love it.
Yeah.
I'm waiting a little bit.
Yeah, no problem.
Glad you like it, bro. We custom make to every city, major city. So if you live in a major city, New York, we do all the five boroughs. Brooklyn, Queens, Bronx, whatever. Do New Jersey, Philly, Boston, New York, Miami, LA. So if that's where you're from and you want to rock your gear, we got custom stuff. Everything will say. This particular shirt is kind of like a dress shirt, so it doesn't say like Detroit Our Thing, but most of our garments will say Detroit, have our logo, and then say Our Thing, but on the front, whatever one of the logos are. And we have about like 10 different designs. And then on the back, it's cool because the back will say your city, real big, Boston, and then have our logo in the middle, and then Our Thing below. So it's pretty cool. Custom made, shipped right to your door. So pretty cool.
Yeah.
Arthingapparel.com. Got to go to arthingapparel.com.
And that link will be attached underneath the video here today after we get it all done and up and upload it and everything like that. So you guys can just click on the link below and explore all the options he's got. He's got everything from hoodies, the track jackets, track suits, sweatshirts, tank tops for the summer, cut sleeves, you name it, he's got it.
You got it.
And everything's quality made too. It's all custom made and quality material. It's not something that you wear it once or twice and it falls apart in the washer. It's quality stuff.
No, most of our stuff is made in America. About 90% of our stuff is made in America. I did that for a reason. And I'm telling you, I've had things, shirts, tracksuits, jackets for like 5-6 years, and they still look new. Not even joking. I wear them all the time, so it's crazy.
Yeah, I have an Adidas one, and I'm not here to badmouth the company Adidas and get sued over it, but like they're like track jackets. If you don't wash them the right way and dry them the right way, like they start getting shorter and shorter. And I'm a short guy to begin with. I'm only 5'9", so I mean, an extra large track jacket shouldn't be getting like short on the sides,
Shrinking.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, you're not that short. The average height in America, which is I think the tallest country in the world, is 5'8" or 5'9". So you're about average, or maybe a little above average.
Well, there you go. When people make jokes, I always say I'm tall where it counts.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I'm not tall, but I look short because I'm kind of wide. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's what a lot of people told me that when I was younger. The bigger you get, the shorter you look.
Yeah, the wider you become, the shorter you look. So people always assume I'm pretty. It's weird. People either assume that I'm like really tall, like 6'2", 6'4", and just massive dude, or they're like, oh, he's short, and I'm like, no, I'm in the middle. I'm like 5'11". So
yeah. Well, Gunnar, the reason I brought you on today was, me and you talked about this a while back. We've been talking for quite some time, and I thought it was a cool subject to touch on. Was speaking on behalf of some of your stories from your days when you did your prison sentence, and what kept you moving, what didn't take after you came out, what kept you from going back to the old life, stuff like that. You posted a really, really phenomenal picture, I think, that has a lot of meaning into it. You could tell a lot of blood, sweat, and tears went into it. I'm going to post the picture while we're talking about it. And, it just really, really has a lot of detail. And you could tell it came from your heart and everything like that. And it's stories like that that I want to talk to people about. But I also, as I was thinking about this subject, I thought, you know what, like we're all kind of prisoners in our own way, whether it's externally or internally. And there's people that they're prisoners to they're living a life that they don't want to live because they're in a bad financial state, a bad mental state. They're not physically in the state they want to be. So I think everybody lives as a prisoner in some way, shape, or form.
Hmm. Everybody
Um,
does.
so I think this is going to be a good subject to touch on. Talk about some positive that you got out of like what you experienced, and maybe some like stories that really stuck out in your head. To get started, what the your biggest sentence that you did? What was the time, and was it like a state or a federal correction institution?
I got 13 to 50 years for an extortion out of the state, Oakland County, Michigan. Just kind of it's a wealthy county just north of Detroit. So they gave me 13 to 50 years. I had gotten already 9.5 years from another county for bank robbery and a couple of armed robberies and guns, and but I pled down. I had like 17 charges that were floaters, capital crimes that were 0 to life. There was no mandatory sentence; they carried 0 to life. And I plea bargained them down to 9.5 years. We're supposed to get sentenced to 9.5 years for the extortion, but they tricked me on the plea agreement and gave me 13 to 50. I couldn't get out of it as a bad lawyer. Just a perfect example of what happens if you don't have a good lawyer. This particular case, I had a court-appointed lawyer, and he just screwed me over, and it is what it is. So, yeah, I think a good place to start would be that picture if you can pull that up. So that's a good place to start because before I went to prison, I was in a really dark place, man. Um, I don't want to glamorize myself or my life. In fact, I want to do the opposite. I was at the time on drugs. I was basically a renegade, just doing a lot of terrible stuff. And the reason for that is I had kind of built this lifestyle that I won't say enjoyed, but I was maintaining. I mean, it was a nice lifestyle. I had a nice new house, a couple new cars, jet boat, jet ski, four-wheeler, motorcycle, all these things. I was still kind of a big buff bodybuilder and worked out and stuff. And nobody knew that I was struggling. And there's this whole long story that goes back behind why I was struggling, because I was a street guy. I was a hustler all my life. That's all I knew was hustling in the street, selling drugs, scams, rackets, cons, whatever it was, mostly selling drugs and extorting drug dealers, or just robbery, straight robbing people. Usually, the people I robbed were like bad guys, pimps and drug dealers and things like that. I just didn't care. But what happened is I got busted for some drugs like the year before. And everybody thought I was possibly ratting because I didn't get any time. It was a real It was a really weak case, and I knew I could beat it. They didn't even charge me for 9 months, and then when they did, I had to start fighting this case, but I ended up beating it, getting down. But in the meantime, everybody thought I was ratting. So all these scams and cons and gangsters and people that I dealt with, including some of my own family and cousins, they thought I was suspect, which I wasn't. But I mean, the cops were literally following me around in helicopters and crap. Not a joke. It's a real deal. I only did it like 3 times, but still, and one time's enough. And they were looking to try and track me down. They knew I was heavily involved in drug game. They wanted to kind of spook me, shake the tree, see what happens, and see where I run to. And I basically was able to kind of shake them off, and they eventually didn't charge me with the stupid case. But nobody would deal with me at the time. So rather than get a job like a normal person, in fact, the truth is I did have a normal job. It wasn't a normal job. I was a sales rep for a big home improvement company, really big one, like one of the biggest in Michigan, right? And the owner loved me. I was a top 5 rep for like 2.5 years I worked there. Basically, I go in the office every morning, and they give me a couple of leads, and one might be a 130, one might be a 430. I go, I pitch and sell. I average selling like $500 in profit commission a day. So it was a great gig for somebody like me, because when I was in this, I wore a shirt and tie or a suit. I was out in the street running around. I could drop off weed, pick up money, drop off money, run orders, go collect money for this guy, go do this for that guy, plot and scam. I was always popping in on my boys, like, what do you got popping? What kind of racket or scam or money making scheme we got going? So I was basically just looked like myself in the street. And then twice a day, I'd stop and get an appointment and try to pitch and sell this product I sold.
Now, Gunnar, let me ask you, not to cut you off, but let me ask you, were you doing that to eventually try and get out of the street hustle life, or were you doing that to try and deflect to throw like a curveball like to anybody investigating you?
No, I did it simply for the money, man. I had a friend that I met that worked there, and he told me how much money he was making. And he was making about 90 grand, 1099, like cash, basically, making 90 grand a year. He wasn't that charismatic or that good of a sales rep making 90 grand. I'm like, if you can make 90, I can do it. So I went in there and I told the owner, basically, I told the owner, man, listen, hire me and I'll freaking be one of your best reps. And he did, and I was. And my first year, I made 120,000 on the books, which was, the equivalent of making like 170, on the books, off the books, excuse me, and 1099. I never paid taxes. So I did it for the money, man. It was a lot of money, and it allowed me to continue my criminal enterprises in the street while making a lot of money legitimately. And it did give me.
Was there any point in time where you were just like, maybe I could start backpedaling off of the streets, or was it just already like kind of at that point it's like why give up all that money and all the stuff that you were working at?
I never thought like that, Scotty. Didn't have that mentality, man. Like I didn't have the mentality to give up the streets. Not that I didn't want to. I didn't even enjoy the streets, but I never had the mentality to say, man, this ain't me. This is all I knew, bro. It's all
120 grand in a year. I mean, back then that was no joke. I mean, that's like 180 now.
Yeah, and on top of it, I was making at least double that in the street.
Yeah.
So, at least another 150 grand a year in the street on average from selling drugs and robbing and whatever. So I had a ton of freaking money. I just bought my second house and all these toys. And but again, all I knew was crime, bro, since I was a kid. My Uncle Pete kind of introduced me to the world of the underworld, crime and scams, drugs, rackets, whatever. And it just, when you're very young, it's called Sigmund Freud has something called critical stages of development. When you're in these young critical stages of development, you develop certain morals and characteristics and etiquette. And when I was in that place where I should be developing into like a normal kid, thinking about school, education, my future, whatever, I was being taught, listen, man, a working man is a sucker. You can make more money freaking in the streets and then hang out at the beach all day, go to the gym, bang chicks, whatever. You ain't got to do nothing. And that's what I believed. And it just carried over all my life. I got busted for selling steroids and I went to jail. Then I got out of jail and a couple of old mob guys freaking were like, hey, man, I could use a hand on something, and I was wanting to impress them. I'd been around them all my life. I'd known them since I was a kid, didn't really know what they were involved in. They were old men, but I knew they were mafia. I mean, my grandpa's, all his paisans were mafia. And my uncle would tell me who was who as I got older in my teens. And so later on, when they said, hey, you want to make a buck? And, my grandpa said to one of them, like a very famous mafioso named Tony Giacalone, could you get, Alonzo a job or some work? He got me a job bouncing at this really high-end nightclub, right? On the water in St. Clair Shores on the lake, really high-end place. And, of course, the whole place was mobbed up. Like, I mean, every night, all these freaking mob guys from ages like 20 to 50 would come in there all the time. It was a little bit of an older crowd, and they'd get to know me. They heard that I was a crazy kid. I liked to knock guys out. I was fighting. I was robbing. They knew I'd been to jail a couple times. I was a tough guy. They didn't have a lot of tough guys around. A lot of that family, mafia family, is very cloistered in regard. Like, it's all family blood, sanguine. It's they are all married or know each other their whole lives or blood relatives. And so most of the guys in my age bracket were kind of young. If they were getting involved in any criminal activity, is white collar stuff. They weren't carrying a gun. They weren't beating and robbing. They weren't doing. So I kind of stood out like an old school freaking beacon of light. So when these old men needed a little muscle, needed a tough guy, some of them turned to me. And it wasn't like hey, I'm in the mob or like you're with me now. It was just like, hey, man, listen, I need a favor. You want to make a buck? I said, yeah. And I wanted to impress them because, I kind of was like, hey, this is the world I'm in. So I would impress them. And then over the next 10 years, man, all I hung around with was criminals. Some were cousins I couldn't even tell you how I was related to and cousins. My uncle and his crew guys were all a bunch of criminals. And I had my own little crew of like hustlers and drug dealers and criminals and gangsters. And all we did was we ran the streets. We chased girls. We hung out at the beach. We worked out at the gym. We sold drugs. We worked rackets. Any scam that anybody could come up with, if it was plausible, I would say, all right. And I tried to always hide it from my uncle because if he got involved, then he'd want a piece of it. And he would claim he's kicking it up to the boss for protection for the lawyers and the judges and the prosecutors if we ever get pinched and stuff. And maybe it was true, maybe it wasn't, but he was just being greedy. So all I did all those years was just commit crimes. And at the end, when I couldn't make money from the street like I normally was, my income went plummeting downhill. In fact, I ended up getting fired from that job because I was kind of soft scamming customers. I was promising them like $500 screen doors to go with their windows, right? Then I wouldn't write it on the invoice. And then when the day they were getting the windows, sometimes they'd even forget because it'd be 6 months later. Or sometimes they go, "Where's my screen door?" And they'd call the company, and then they would bitch me out. And I go, "Oh man, sorry, I forgot that." Well, it made the difference between me getting a commission of like $300 and like $1,500 the way it was set up. So because there's like brackets, if you can get it under that bracket, you can make 1,500 instead of 300. And so eventually, the owner was out of town on vacation. The vice president didn't like me; he was a douchebag, so he fired me while the boss was out of town. Normally, I would have walked right in the owner's office and said, "What the frick are you talking about? If I sold $2.7 million worth of stuff last year, and I'm saying, you really going to let me go?" And he would have never. He would have said, "Go back out to whatever." But they did. So at this point, when they did fire me, I got pissed off and was like, "I'm just going to start my own company, and now I'll be your competition." So me and a cousin started our own Elegant Homes by Toco, which is just a home improvement company, LLC, that I started, and I learned the business from working there. And I started doing side contract jobs, home improvement, everything. Didn't matter what it was. And then I'd contract it out to contractors. And I was doing really good. But the problem was, when all I was doing it, I started scamming people. You know what I'm saying? Give me a $5,000 deposit on a $20,000 job, or $10,000 on 20. And then I would like spend the money and not do the job. And now I started getting people looking for me and just like, where's the, and I just started self-imploding. So I could have been, if I would have stuck out what I was doing, because I went and got my contractor's license and all that, I would be a multimillionaire right now. I probably would have already sold my company for $50 million and I'd be gone. But
Isn't it
anyway,
amazing? Isn't it amazing though? Like from when you were younger, like what you learned in the streets and like how to hustle and all that like that. Isn't it amazing how you can implement that in a sales position job? The stuff that you learn in the streets and the stuff that you learn how to survive in the hustle and how to talk to people and negotiate and get what you want. I don't think could be taught in any college that anybody goes and they get like a degree in business or anything like that. And I truly believe that's why I'm such a good auto salesman.
well, I believe that you can be taught the sales psychology and the process. But if you're not a natural salesman, if you're not naturally charismatic and witty and just a natural salesman, then you're probably never going to be a good salesman. You could be an okay salesman. You could make a living as a salesman, but you're not going to be the guy in the top 5 of the 100 guys. You're not going to be the guy who's making the big money. In order to be that guy, that's a natural gift. And yeah, it's unlikely you even have to go through school. You can take Glengarry classes and all these different things. They put me in these classes all the time. I sit there and sleep through them. I don't need the class. I mean, that's how I got the job. Basically, I walked in and said to the owner, this is a crazy story. A friend told me he was making 90 grand a year, and he said, "Go see Brian." So I went into this big building. He's got like 190 employees. He got 90 sales reps or whatever it is. A ton of big building, real nice place. And I said, "I'd like to see Brian." And the girl at the desk said, "Who are you?" I said, "A guy looking for a job." And she's like, "Well, he's not available at the time." But the guy said to me, my friend said, "You walk up the stairs, his office is to the right. You see it there." I said, "I'm just going to go up there and talk to the guy myself. I'm not going to set up an appointment. He ain't going to meet me." So I walk up there. There's a secretary sitting at a thing, and I walk up and I see the door. It says Brian, owner. You know what I'm saying? So I walk right over and knock on the door. The secretary said, "Excuse me, sir, can I help you?" I said, "Yeah, I need to see Brian." She don't know who I am, so she just went. Guy opens the door, says, "Can I help you?" I said, "I need to see Brian." He's sitting behind the desk. Very handsome Jewish guy. There's 3-4 guys in the room. The vice president, sales manager, and the top rep, Marvin Glazer. I walk in there and it's like, I kind of step in the door. I said, I'm looking for a job. And the guy said, "Can I help you?" I said, "Yeah, I'm looking for a job." "What do you do?" I'm like, "I sell." And then he says, Brian, the owner says, "What makes you think you can sell?" I said, I looked dead at him. I said, "I could sell you windows, bro." And he chuckles and looks at his guys. These are the best guys in his company. All of them are making like 150, 200 grand a year easy. And this is back then. He says, "Okay, sell me windows." And I said, "How would you like your home to be safer, better looking, more energy efficient, increased in equity value, and at the same time cost you nothing?" says, tell me more. I said, if you add these windows to your property, you increase the value of your property, probably double in equity what the cost of the windows are instantly. This money you save on energy over the next probably 18 months to 2 years will pay for the window. Plus, the home is safer, it's more secure, it's better looking, it's a better home. He looks at the guy and says, sign him up for the class. I said, so he looks at the guy and says, all right, I'm going to start training you. Mark Glazer, another old Jewish dude. So it's a 2-week class. They give you a $500 like advance each week, so you're making about. I'm 3 days into the class, 3 days. I go on a couple like runs with Marvin to watch how he does it. And after the 3 day, I come back and said, Marv, I'm ready to sell, man. Give me some leads. He says, think you're ready? I said, yeah. He's like, I'm telling you, I'm ready. I can sell. So he brings me in Brian's office and says, the kid, because I'm only 27 years old, he says, the kid thinks he's ready to sell. And he says, is he? He's like, maybe. Said, give him some leads. So I went out that day and I sold 2 jobs. I made $1,800. One of them canceled. So I only made like $800, but they did rehash the one that canceled and resold them. So, and I didn't get the money for that. Marv did. But either way, I made $800 my first day, and that was just off and running. And that year, I was like, I was the number 1 sales rep 5 or 6 times. The second year, I was like, 10, 12 times. Anyways, over 2.5 years, I was the number 1 sales rep for 19 out of 32 months that I worked there. So
when you made that kind of money in one day legally, was it kind of like mind-blowing to you, like this is a possibility without having to go back to college? I can make $1,800 in one day and not have to worry about looking over my shoulder or watching my back?
No, I never thought about it because I had made thousands in days. I'd robbed the Myers once and got like $50,000 in one whop. I'd robbed drug dealers. I'd done big dope deals. Money was, I had a lot of money times, and then a lot of times I was broke as hell. I was a bum. I didn't have nothing. I was like down to like $500 in my pocket. But there was, because I was being lazy. I wasn't out robbing and stealing, hustling, and building up my clientele for the weed and steroids or whatever I sold. I was just being a bum, chasing girls. And but so money, that didn't never encourage me to leave that life alone. I just thought it's more money for me. So, anyways, that's the backstory a little bit. And then I ended up getting in this. I robbed the bank the last day I was as a free man. I was age 29. My girlfriend said, today's build day. I remember I was in the mirror kind of putting on a suit and tie, getting ready to run around. I ran the streets all freaking day. And my girl knew I was a hustler in the street. She'd ask me, what are you doing out there all day? I'm like, I'm doing this and then that, selling weed, blah, blah, blah. She knew me for 13 years. She'd be my girlfriend. So I kept that whole life compartmentalized. Like, she didn't know nothing about my life. Once I left the house, she had no idea what I did. I'd come back. As long as I came home at like 10 o'clock at night, she was just happy that I wasn't at some girl's house or spending the night or whatever. So I put a shirt and tie on, put a gun in my waist. I looked at myself. I went downstairs, and I had a beautiful house. It wasn't crazy beautiful, but it was nice for me. It was today it'd be a probably $200,000 house. But it had like marble fireplace, real nice hardwood floors. We had beautiful furniture. The place was dope. The 3-bedroom colonial, 2-story. I lived 8 houses from Lake St. Clair, so it was a really nice area. And I looked in the mirror that day, and I looked at myself, and I kind of tucked my pistol in so the suit couldn't see it. And my girl says, it's bill day. I said, how much is because we always split it, right? Because she insisted on paying half the bills. And there were times when I had a lot of money. I'd say, I'll pay everything this month. And she'd be like, nope, I'll pay my half. She just wouldn't take my money. She didn't want my money. I couldn't give it to her. There were times where I said, happy birthday, here's $500, go shopping. And she'd be like, nope, but I'll take 50 for a new pair of shoes. How about that? For tennis shoes, work shoes, whatever. So she says, half the bills is $2,200. It's tax time. So I look at my pocket. By the way, I have no dope. I did a little bit of dope for breakfast, to get from Jones in, like a couple of packs of heroin. And then I said, all right, I got to go get some dope. I got $700 in my pocket. So to be perfectly honest, I don't think I did any dope that morning. Come to think of it, I wasn't. I was completely bogue. So this is the reason why I was so rogue. And she said, so I handed her the $700. I said, all right, I'm going to run it to the bank, get the rest of the money. And I remember I hugged and kissed her goodbye. She glanced down at my pistol. And she wanted to say, like, what's that for? But she knew I carried a gun all the time. So I just kind of covered it and left. Went straight to the bank, used a fake bomb to rob the bank, got in a high-speed chase, got arrested. 6 cops beat me half to death. And that was the end of my run. That was it. And they ended up giving me 13 to 50 years for all these charges. I'd been in a crime spree. I'd been, robbing and pillaging for about 2 weeks, just acting crazy as hell because, I don't pride myself as a gangster or was a gangster. I never said I was in the mob. I was associated with some mafiosos. I grew up around the mob, certainly all around me, my family and my family's friends and family. But I was just a criminal. And I mean, I had a lot of friends that were criminals, right? Drug dealers. But when a gangster, if this classifies as a gangster, and a lot of mafiosos, if you read into their stories and with things that they did when they were young in their 20s, like me, they robbed banks, they robbed stores, they robbed hijacked trucks, they did petty stuff. Used the gun, they beat and robbed drug dealers. That's what I did. So I mean, I'm in the mob, but when it came time to do gangster shit, I did gangster shit. That's what I did. Not proud of it. I'm just saying that's what I did. And it ended up resulting in me paying the ultimate price, 13 years in prison. But there are people who will try to take that away. Like, you weren't in the mob, so you weren't. I'm like, dude, I did more gangster stuff in like a week than most mafiosos that I knew did in a year or a lifetime. So I didn't know any better. I didn't think any better. I just this is how I get money. If I need money, I go rob a store or a bank or a drug dealer or a pimp, whatever. And then I could have a few grand in my pocket, sit there and watch ESPN for 2 hours. You know what I'm saying? And worry about my next score later or whatever. So anyways, so I go to prison or go to jail. So I'm
Yeah,
gonna
you
tell
start
you
at the county. You start at the county level, right? Before you get sentenced and everything.
Yeah, so I ended up kicking dope in the county jail. I was all busted up. They beat me half to death. I had to go to Detroit receiving just to get stitched up. 6 cops, all of them black. After I got in a high-speed chase, caught me. I surrendered. I threw the gun. They all came running up, cuffed me, and then they started pistol whipping me and beating me, yelling, "Why didn't you shoot, white boy? Why didn't you shoot, white boy?" And then they just beat me half to death, bro. So when I get to Detroit Receiving Hospital, because they had to take me straight in, and that's all. They took me to 9th Precinct first and fingerprinted me. I was covered in blood. I'm leaking blood all over the place. I'm dope sick. And I remember yelling at these cops. One of the cops that was walking by was the main guy who was pistol whipping me. I said, "I'm coming for your family when I get out, mother effer. I'm coming." And one of the cops, the sergeant, fingerprinted me. He knew my grandpa. He says, "You're Pete Toko's grandson?" I said, "Yeah, how do you know?" He's like, "Oh, I know Pete. We go way back." I'm like, "Yeah." So he kind of knew a little bit about who I was or my story. And so they take me to receiving, and it's Detroit Receiving Hospital is basically like going to like a war zone in Somalia. It's Detroit, 9th Precinct, East Side. It's literally like a war zone. It's chaos. It's crazy. They had me chained to a gurney with like 5 cops around me. I'm covered in blood. I'm all busted up. These cops kicked the shit out of me, bro. And the nurse comes over as a dude. He comes over and looks at me up and down, and he goes, I don't even know where to start, bro." He's like, "You're such a mess." He's like, "I got to do a full body CAT scan just to see how broken you are." So they take me in for a full body CAT scan. It comes back just bruises and lacerations. He did spot a tumor under my sternum close to my heart. He said, "That is something you need to get looked at." I don't know what it is, but it had been from when I got stabbed. I got stabbed in the chest a few years before this. I got jumped, got stabbed, and just a weird fluke thing, God working. I got stabbed from like the side, and the knife went in like sideways, not straight in, and it nicked what's called the thymus gland, and it caused the thymus gland to start. It triggered it to start making genetic material, bones, teeth, and hair, like a little mini me inside my chest. So when I was in prison, like 5 years later, they actually sawed me open and freaking pulled it out. We're like playing with it and going, "Wow!" Like we've seen this in studies, we've never seen it in real life. University of Michigan heart pulmonologist or whatever did it. So they did a job. They didn't kill me. I'm still here, and they got it all out. So after I'm all busted up, they take me to the county jail. I don't sleep for 14 days, bro. Now, I know people think that's insane and impossible. They're going to say that's a lie. There's no way. There's no way a human can go 14 days without sleep. I'm telling you, I did. That's how dope sick I was and withdrawing it was. The first 3 or 4 days you're puking, you're super sick, you're all sore and itchy and restless. But then after about 8, 9 days, you kind of just calm down and you just can't sleep and you're sick and you're just... Anyways, on the 14th day, I did sleep for maybe 20 minutes. And on the 15th day, I got in a fight in the county jail, which wasn't really a fight. I just smashed some dude's face in, really. One punch, I caved this whole orbital socket in. I had gone to church and came back, and somebody had stolen. And I'm gonna. This leads into the story in the hole with the picture. And a guy had went in my cell while I was at church and stolen 2 apple pies. And I came out. And I went in. I saw my box had been moved, and I said to my bunkie, "Man, you been in my box?" He says, "No, man, no, I've been here sleeping or whatever." So I look and there's 2 pies in. So I flip the F out, bro. Flip out. So I end up going into the day room with my box of commissary. I smash the TV off the table on the floor, break it, boom, and start challenging anybody to come take my shit like a man, right? It's probably 70-30 black. And some of them are like guys who've been to prison and stuff. Now I'm absolutely spazzing out. Keep in mind, I ain't slept in 14 days. I'm sick. I'm withered away. I lost weight. I probably lost 25 pounds. I just look horrible, but I'm like, I'm going to kill one of these motherfuckers. And basically, what ended up happening is they locked us down because the tower saw me on the table yelling at people, whatever. Everybody got all quiet as the church mouse just sat there. So they said, lock down D unit, lock down. Then the cops came and said, well, what's your problem, Lindbloom? I said, somebody stole from me. And they said, let it go. I said, I will. They popped the doors, 20 minutes later, let us all back out into the day room. And I go back outside, and I'm still huffing and puffing, walking around. I said, yeah, mother effers, I bought your soul. 2 pies. It cost 2 pies for your soul, you coward, pussy, mother effer. Come take it like a man. You can't take it like a man. I'll beat your freaking brains in. And I wasn't like in there acting tough or nothing like that. Everybody knew who I was though, because I was all over the news. Like everybody in there knew who I was because they'd seen me all over the news on my arraignments, $1 million bond, $1 million. I'd come back from court and they go, hey, another $1 million bond. Hey, Al. I said, yeah. They saw it in the news. So they all but they also knew I was kicking dope. So they kind of thought I was weak, I guess. And so until that day. So then I look at this dude, this little black kid sitting against the wall. He's leaning against the wall. I remember his name. His name was Wheezy. I actually ran into him a couple years down the road in prison. And he's got this razor in his hand, and his hand is shaking. And I get right in his face. I said, what's up, man? What are you scared of? Why are you shaking, bro? It wasn't me, man. It wasn't me. It was my bunkie. It was my bunkie. He rats his bunkie out. I said, yeah? What cell do you lock in? He tells me. So I go, now everybody can hear us. Everybody's watching. There's like 40 guys. I walk right over to the dude's cell, push open the door because they're open. I said, man, you steal from me, bro? He goes, I didn't steal shit, bro. I said, I'm checking your box, which I figured you probably ate him already, but just to let him know, I'm checking your box. So I start going to Rick's box. He goes, oh, man, now you disrespecting me, dog. I said, you feel disrespected, huh? Bam! And just, bam! Smashed him in the eye, right? Just caved his whole eye. Knocks him out. He was a stocky, light-skinned black dude, pretty muscular. Probably weighed about 175 and about 5'7". So he was not a little guy, but he's buff. But he's KO, knocked him out, and instant, like, as soon as I hit him, I put a big gash right here. So a lot of blood started leaking out. And I grabbed him by his pant leg and drag him out into the unit and say, anybody else want to steal from me? Anyone? So the cops see the guy laid out in the tower, sitting stretched out. Lockdown D unit, we all locked down. Talking about, honor amongst thieves. Like 30 different people wrote a kite on me, wrote a statement. Because they passed it under the door. What did you see? What did you see? What did you see? What did you see? And every black dude in there was like, oh, sell such and whatever. And Lindbloom did it. And I'm like, what pussies. So they cuffed me up and take me to the hole. I know about his eye caved in because I had to pay restitution down the road because he needed surgery. Luckily, I didn't have to pay for the surgery, but I had to pay for the ambulance ride, which is $700. So like 4 years later, I'm in prison, and they say, you got to pay restitution. It's coming out of your account every week or every month. Any money you get, we're going to take $50 of it or whatever, until it got to the point where we're taking all of it. So I had to have my friends and family pay off all my restitution, which was like $3,000 total. But anyways, it said in there that he had to have surgery for an orbital stocking. I seen the dude freaking 6 months later on my way to court. I'm cuffed up. He still had a black eye. He's in jail. He's still got a black eye in his eye. You can see the scar. His eye's kind of saggy. And I'm in cuffs. Cops are walking me. He goes, what's up, Al? I just, really, dude? Freaking scumbag. So I end up in the hole. And then I go to the hole. And it's an old school hole type of environment where there's bars. It's a 5-man rock, so there's 5 cells with bars in the front, concrete walls in between, a little walkway in front, a shower at the end of the walkway. Then there's another set of bars with like mesh, so you can't spit on the cops that do rounds. And then there's another walkway, between the mesh and the screen. So the cops do rounds every hour, and they come by, and so there was this one cop, man. His name was Donahue. Still remember him. Total freaking douchebag. Now, I'm not going to say I was behaving good. I was in there making a lot of noise and riling guys up. We were laughing. I'm just trying to stay sane, man. And this cop started messing with me. Gave me a couple of tickets, made me stay in the hole for another like month. So now I'm in there for like 2 months. So then I go to court one day. I come back from court, and because I was a high profile prisoner, they would put me in my own holding cell. So, like Macomb County Jail has like they call it the horseshoe or the bubble. It's like a plexiglass control center, and then cells all the way around it. Big holding cells that hold like 10, 15 guys. It's about 12 of them, 15 of them, whatever. But then there's the protective custody cell and observation cells. These big glass walled 2 cells. No one's usually in them. Well, when I had to go to court and wait for they had to put me in a separate bus, the whole nine. So they would put me in a holding cell, right? And I come back, and I come back, and I was sitting there banging beats on the window because it's super acoustic in there, the plexiglass. I was going boom, 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 and I was like doing it, and everybody in the other cells was like, yeah, laughing. They were like dancing to it and stuff, and whatever. I was just making beats. There's a speaker in the cell, and the cops in the bubble say, "Hey, Lindbloom, knock it off," and I just kept doing it, boom, boom, boom. Lindbloom, knock it off, boom. So at one point, some lieutenant, possibly captain, the guy with gold regalia. Most of the cops had silver. Their deputies were silver regalia. This guy had all gold, so he thinks he's somebody, whatever. He walks right over to the window, and I'm going boom, boom, boom. Just keep doing it, right? He's like, knock it off. And I'm like, boom, boom. I hit harder, boom. Like, I'm facing 30 years in prison. You think I give a shit about you, bro? I'm just in there trying to stay sane, enjoy my freaking, not enjoy, but make the best of my life, what I got left. He says, "You know who I am?" I stop and go, "Dude, I have no idea who you are, nor do I care." I said, "Do you know who I am?" Which is to say, nobody. And but I'm somebody who doesn't care. That's what I said. Me? You know who I am? Somebody who doesn't give a F about you. Boom, boom, boom. So he leaves. I actually calm down. I sit down. I start reading an old newspaper that was in there. About 20 minutes goes by. They open I hear the door going, and I hear the mic go, "Lindbloom, step out and cuff up." So I kind of look up, and there's the freaking goon squad. They got, about 10 cops. They're all in riot gear, face masks, spit shields. They got nightsticks and shields and stuff. And I know the game. See, I've been in the jail. I've been around a long time. What they want you to do is turn around and cuff up. And then as soon as they get you where there's no cameras or nobody can see you, they start yelling, "Stop resisting," and they start beating your ass. That's what they do. It's typical protocol. I've seen it happen for 50 times, So I told them, I said, "I'm not cuffing up. I said, I'm ready to go back to my cell. I'm not going to give you any problems." I said, "But I'll walk with my hands free in case you guys feel frisky and decide you're going to beat me after death or kill me." Because they had killed guys in there, a couple of guys. And they said, "Turn around and cuff up." I said, "I'm not cuffing up. So if you're going to come in and get me, come in and get me. But I'm not freaking cuffing up." So there was a dude standing behind this big tall guy was like dead in front. He steps aside, and you hear one of them say, "Let him have it." And there was another dude standing behind the big dude with the taser. And bang, but I kind of see it coming right when he says that, so I start ducking to make myself small. And the taser hits me one in the neck right here, and then one misses. So it doesn't really get me enough. I do feel zapped, like, but I whack and I knock it off. And they're all like, "Holy shit, he just took the taser and knocked it off." They shut the cell, shut the cell, shut the cell. And they shut the door. So I actually end up going to lay down and go to sleep. Like 2-3 hours go by, right? I'm just laid on the cement slab. I'm like, just take me back to my cell, which is in the hole. And I'm already doing like 2 months in the hole. And so all of a sudden I hear, like doors coming open. I kind of peek up, and they say, "Step out of the cell and cuff up." I said, "I'm not cuffing up. So, but I'd like to go back to my cell." Same scenario, where there's a big dude standing there, but when he stepped aside and said, "Let him have it," it was a chick with a pepper spray, like a foghorn pepper spray. Poof, and shoots me in the eye, in the face, and then they rush in there, and they all got masks on, so they're not affected, and they cuff me up very roughly, make me, and I'm away back to cell to on way to the hole. This one douchebag cop, he's like wrenching my shoulder out of the socket because I'm cuffed from behind. And he's yanking, and I kind of look at him. I say, "Hey, bro, relax." I said, "You're gonna rip my shoulder out the socket. I know where I'm going." I'm not resisting. Chill out. You go, and he yanks and goes, shut up, inmate. No talking, whatever. And I go, you must got a real small dick. And a couple of cops laughed. Yeah, he must have a real little dick, motherfucker. A couple of cops laughed. Then right when I go down, you got to go in an elevator to go down to the hall. As soon as and that's where the cameras end. And it's in the corner of the hall. And the elevator opens up. There's 5 of them. And as soon as I take one step in, I feel a hand on the back of my head go, stop resisting. And they slam me in there. And they just beat my ass. Now, while I'm cuffed, I can't fight back. They just throw me on the ground. They take me to the ground and start stomping me out. They start kneeing me and punching me and whatever. I actually had to get stitches. So I have to take it. Nothing I can do. They bring me back to the cell. So they turn around and uncuff so you can, turn around and uncuff. Because you're in the bars there now. They just reach in and uncuffs you. And I say, real tough guys, huh? Took 5 of you guys while I'm cuffed. I said, why don't you come in here now? You 5 on me. Let's see how tough you are. And I said something like, you're going to go home and tell your girls, you had one to go today. You had to beat one down. You're going to forget to tell her that I was in cuff and it took 5 of you, ain't you? I said, come on, come in here now, mother effer. You 5 on me. And one of them was this huge dude. They call him Big Show. Anyways, they leave. And an hour later, that same cop Donahue rolls in and he takes there's a ticket. He crumbles it up in a wad. And he throws it through the bars as he walks by and it kind of bounces off me. And I pick it up. And I open up and the ticket says, assault on staff. And then says, you are now permanently, indefinitely classified as a level 9, which means you never leave the hole. If you are in this jail, you go straight to the hole. If I was to go to that jail today, 20 years later, the second I went through booking, they'd put me in the hole and I'd stay there forever. Level 9. This is how it is. So now I'm in the hole.
How is it? I'm sorry to cut you off, but how is it in the state of Michigan, in the state of Pennsylvania? Like, I don't know if it's a law, but the county prison that I worked at, they can only stay up to 2 years in the county level, and then you get advanced to state or federal wherever you're sentenced to.
Same thing. It's the same thing. But I 2 years. But I ended up in the hole total for 17 months. And so after I'm working on a TV project, and there's a moment there's a scene in the project that kind of inspired or reflects the scene that happened. While I was there, I had a kind of a spiritual awakening. After that, I'm sitting there bleeding. They had dumped a whole bucket of mop water on my bed, and it was still pretty cold out. It was like May, so the place was always like 55 degrees in there. I had some pictures that my girlfriend had sent me just to keep me inspired to live. You know what I'm saying? Give me a purpose to live, like a reason to live. I was looking at these pictures of me fishing and hunting and hanging out with my girl, my dogs, and the cops dumped them all over the bed and then took all my mail. Some of the letters were from my grandparents who were writing me. They'd end up dying a couple years later, so those letters were precious to me. They dumped it all in the bed and took a 5-gallon mop bucket and just dumped it all over my bed, just to be douchebag. This kind of guy. So I was sitting there on the edge of my bed. I'm dripping blood. I had to get stitches. And I was just like, man, this is not the life that I signed up for, man. This is not what I wanted. What happened? Like, how did I go so wrong? There's no lower point in life than this. I'm facing 30 years in a hole, beat down, and going, just nothing. Nobody supporting me, nothing. I'm a loser.
There's nothing you can do at that point.
Nothing you can do. So
face the music.
Face the music. So there was a point where I considered suicide because they were saying 30 years. I'm like, I'm not doing 30 years in prison. I'd rather be dead. 30 years, come out an old man with nothing, nobody, no loved ones, no friends, no skills, no nothing. What's the point? I just slip my wrist in the showers or get some dope and do it and just check out. But there was a moment, and I can't say if it was right then or not, where it was very spiritual, where I knew God was saying to me, listen, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, right? And I remember in my mind picturing a tunnel with a light at the end and basically saying, that light's 13 years down the tunnel and you can make it. So what am I going to do for 13 years? And I said, well, what am I good at? Nothing. He's like, well, it was all a conversation with God. And I'm like, well, what am I good for? What am I good at? What can I do to save my soul? Whatever. And I looked at my desk and there was a bunch of books. There's a bunch of books sitting on my desk that I've been reading. I read most of them. And I remember thinking to myself when I was reading those books, these books are not that good. Like, I could do better. I believe I could do better. And these are books written by the best authors in the world, John Grisham and Sidney Sheldon and Tom Clancy. And I'm just like, they're good, but I can do better. I believe so I could. So from that day on, I sat back in my cell and I started writing books. Now, this sounds crazy because I didn't have the writing materials to write the books. I was in a hole. But the once or twice a week, the book cart would come around with the cop and an inmate, like porter or whatever, trustee. And I'd always get books because I blast through these books. I'd work out and I'd read. I work out and I read. I work out and I read. And one day they come through and they said, books. And I said, no, I'm good. And they looked at me crazy. They're like, what's wrong, man? Why don't you want any books this week? You always get books. I'm like, not anymore. Why? I said, because I'm writing books. What do you mean you're writing books? I said, I kind of look around myself for writing materials. There's nothing there. I said, yeah, I'm writing them. He's like, where? You didn't even have pen and paper. I said, I'm writing them in my head. And he kind of laughed. The cop's like, yeah, sure you are, pal. Anyways, over the next 14 months or so, I wrote 3 novels in my head. One of them was To Be a King. The book, those are set back there. I don't remember. I just remember To Be a King was one of them. I wrote, I think, 3 while I was in the hole in my head, start to finish. I'd lay on my bunk staring at the ceiling for months and just build the story in my mind, build the characters, build the plot, build the romantic interest, the theme, the plot, the resolution, the characters, everything. And then when I was done, I'd be like, okay, I'm going to write another book now. So what I would do is I'd read for like a month in that realm. I wanted to create that world. Because there's only one mafia story. Of the 10 books I've written, only one has a mafia theme. I wrote a lot of stuff, action, suspense, paramilitary, sports themed books, even a romantic comedy, yada. So I would get some books, read into that, get involved in that genre or that world, maybe even take a few notes of words I wanted to use or happenstances, and then I would stare at the ceiling and I'd write for a month or 2 or 3 or whatever it was, 4 or whatever, and then I'd finish and do another one. Then when I got to prison, first thing I did was
Is this state or federal?
state. It's all state, yeah. State.
All state time, okay.
So, quick funny story is, before I went to prison, I had a friend. I call him my cousin. We're not really. I think we are cousins through some marriage, but Italian dude named Joe. Good dude, Joe Urbino, one of my paisans. He's an earth angel, one of God's chosen ones, angels in my life. I had burned him for a bunch of weed, like 10 pounds of weed, and then I didn't pay him. That's the type of stuff that I did. I had him front me the weed, then I just didn't pay him. We were supposed to be boys, but he's just like, there's nothing he could do. He's a big bodybuilder, big muscle-bound bodybuilder, but he was not a tough guy at all. I was, but he wasn't, and he knew that. So he ended up moving to Chicago and getting his life cleaned up. He left the streets alone and met a Christian woman at the choir and married her, and now he has an amazing life, and he's a super awesome dude. But at the time, he just kind of wrote me off. Said, all right, no, then I guess we're not friends anymore. And then years later, like 2, 3, 4, 5 years later, whatever it was, he used to read the Detroit news while he was in Chicago to catch up on what's happening in Detroit. And on his way to work, he took the train to work in Chicago all the time. He worked for a headhunter, which is like a placement company or HR company. And he saw in the newspaper a story about me and all the time they'd given me, all these years. And he actually said the next day he was driving and he kept thinking about me. And he said, this is how you know God is real. He said, I was hit by the Holy Spirit. And I had never felt this before except the day I gave my life to Christ. The moment I gave my life to Christ, I knew God was talking to me. And then this moment, God told me, and this is exact words, he wrote me a letter, and he said, God told me to support you no matter what and do anything I can for you. I don't know what I can do, but if there's anything I can do, let me know. I know you're a good dude. I know you were never a bad guy. You just grew up in bad environment and had bad circumstances. Your dad was a drunk. Your mother was mentally ill. Your family was the mafia, yada, yada, yada. He's like, I'll do anything I can. So I wrote him back, thank you. I said, could you send me $20 so I can buy some pens and papers? I want to start writing books. He sent me like 30. I bought a bunch of pens and papers. And I sat down and started writing. I spent about a year writing this book called The Second Chance, which is a sports-themed book about these 2 high school football players. One is a superstar, and then one is a white kid who's like this superstar player. And then his best friend who lives across the street is a black kid who's a good player, but the superstar refused to go to any college unless the college gives his boy a scholarship. They become brothers because the superstar one's father, who's an alcoholic, ends up dying of a stroke. So the black kid's parents, who grew up with him like a child, adopt him. Say, well, you're ours now. So he was totally cool with that. Now these two are brothers. He says, I'm not going to any college unless you bring Omar. And of course, most of the colleges are like, yeah, well, you don't want him. He's not that good. He's like, I'm telling you, he's good. Eventually, University of Miami says, we'll do it just because we want you. And so while they're in orientation, during preseason, they fly home to surprise their girlfriends. And he catches the girl, the main guy catches the girl with a dude in a bet. He had drugged her, but the name of the character is Chance Enzo. That's why the name of the book's called Second Chance. He ends up beating the guy, and the guy dies. They end up giving him 16 years in prison for that. But his boy, who shouldn't even be in the college, but because of him, goes on to win a national championship at University of Miami and gets drafted into the NFL. Low, but he makes little money. But after like a 2-year good years, they give him like an $80 million contract. First thing he does is hire the best lawyer in the country to try and get his boy out of prison, right? And they do. And the story goes from there. And so I wrote that book, and I...
Did you have that published?
No, it's not published yet. No. It's so much deeper than that. There's so much more to it, but I don't want to ruin the story for future readers. It's really intense. Like, you find out later.
I'm engaged.
Yeah, you'll love it, dude. It's a lot of funny stuff. Like, they have the couple of their homeboys are like these hangers on. Omar now is worth $80 million. He's super rich. He buys all his boys cars and houses and toys, and they do all kinds of funny stuff. And of course, when Chance gets out of prison after 8 years, he starts bringing him around his practice facility when they're training and stuff. And he starts kind of implying to his coaches, like, no, you should give my brother a shot. And they're like, I just got out of prison after 8 years. We can't give him a shot. And eventually they get in a big fight with the owner of the team, and he insists. And before you know it, he's playing in the NFL. And there's a lot more to it. I won't ruin it anymore. Plus, especially the girl, the twist with the girl is really mind-boggling. I can't get into that. But anyway, so I send that to my cousin Joe. He reads it. He's blown away. He's like, I'm in tears. I just can't believe how good this is. And I'm not even a reader, but it's amazing. I look forward to reading it every day and wait about. So, and I write another book. The next book is a Vietnam story about this guy's 3 tours in Vietnam. It's fiction. Then I write kind of a romantic comedy, and I just keep writing, right? And the more I write, I'm handing books, manuscripts. There's these rough manuscripts. They're long. They're like 1,000-page manuscripts, handwritten. And I see guys who are readers in the day room all the time. They're reading books, and I go, "Hey, would you like to read the book I just finished writing? What's it about?" I tell them. I said, "Sure, I'll give it a shot." They would come back to me 3-4 days later. Sometimes one day, the first time I gave a rat's tail to this guy. He goes, "Oh, I was in Vietnam. I was a Navy Seabee in Mekong Delta." I said, "Oh, you're gonna love this. Then this is, it takes place in the Mekong Delta, some of it." So he's like a hard guy to sell. I've been in prison for 20 years. I've read probably 10,000 books. That's all I do. I don't even have a TV. I just read all day. And I said, "Cool. I hope you like it." So I hand him this book, right? It's 1,100-page manuscript called A Rat's Tail, Tale. It's because the name of their company was the Bravo Blue Rats. So it's called the Rat's Tail, Tale, and double entendre. So I hand it to him. It's like noon. This is level 4, so you're locked down 22 hours a day. The next morning, they crack your door, all the doors, click, 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 to go to chow at like 6 in the morning. And guy locked in the cell next to me, right next to me. So click, 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 click. I get, putting my shoes on, ready to go. It was a cold winter day. Guy pushes the door open. He hands me the manuscript. He holds it out to me, and I was like real disappointed. I'm like, "Oh, what's wrong, man? You couldn't get into it?" He goes, "No, I finished it." I'm like, "Finished it?" I said, "It's 1,100 pages." He's like, "Yeah, I read 24 hours straight, nonstop. Didn't even go to sleep last night." He says, "I don't know how you did this, dude, but they're going to talk about this book across the country someday." I'm like, "Yeah, you think so?" He goes, "Unbelievable." He's like, "I could sit here for freaking 10 years and try to dream up a story and just never in my wildest dreams come up with something like this. How did you do it?" I'm like, "I don't know. I just did it." He's unbelievable. So now I'm handing books to other people, and they're all saying the same thing. So I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but basically one after another, guys are saying this. They're like, dude, how is it that the best writer I've ever read in my life locks in a cell down the hall from me? It's just unbelievable. I had one guy read 3 in a row. He said, this is the best book I ever read. Then I hand him the next one. He comes back and goes, I think this one's better than the other one. And then hand him, I said, well, another one? He said, yeah. He goes, yeah, I think this one's better than the other two. So the 3 best books in your life that you've ever read are written by me? And it's crazy. So I knew I was onto something. So that was the interesting part. And eventually, and I won't go any further detail. I just wanted to give a backstory about my life, and we can get into some prison stories. But basically 6 years into my prison sentence, and this is where I defer back to my cousin Joe, who was the angel God put in my life. When God said, hey, I need you to be in this man's life, he said, I don't know why or how, but God put it on my heart. 6 years later, he reaches out to me. He's read a couple of my books, and he says, listen, man, I think I'm going to start a Facebook page for you. And I'm like, what's Facebook? And he's like, it's this new social media thing. This is like 2008. And he's like, I'm going to try to connect you with some of the old friends from the neighborhood, maybe a few girls from the neighborhood, man, just kind of keep people don't forget about you. I said, that'd be awesome. I'm going to put some sample chapters. And so him and my other boy managed it. And my other boy, Billy, who's a big supporter of me and loves me, kind of a famous dude from the East Side named Billy Usher. He said, I'm going to put sample chapters of your book on your Facebook page. And then it says, if anybody would like to contact the author, here's how you do it. It's called JPay, which is a prison email. People can pay, $1 and send you an email, and they print it out and give it to you at mail call. So he puts those on my Facebook page, and I start getting like fan mail. People start messaging me there. And it's only like 3-4 chapters, and they're all going, man, dude, you're the freaking truth, man. This is the Mafia book. This is the To Be a King. I just finished it. And so it was my latest book. I was pretty proud of it. So I said, yeah, publish that one. It was the cleanest one. I ended up getting a typewriter after my 3rd book and taught myself how to type and write and all that. This would have been my 6th novel now. And I was pretty proud of it. So they put it out there, and people started sending me fan mail saying, you're the next Mario Puzo. I had a bunch of people say, you're better than Mario Puzo. But everything he wrote, I'm telling you, this has me more engrossed than Mario Puzo's work. Dude, you're the truth. Good luck. God bless you. Keep up the work. I'm like, you haven't even read the story yet. You don't even know nothing. You've only scratched 1% of the story. The writing's pretty good, and I guess it's entertaining. But until you see the whole story, how the whole picture fits together, you just have no idea. I'm a very plot-driven writer. It's all about the plot. It's all how it fits together at the end, where you just go, boom, like, no way. Anyways, one day I get a letter from a woman. We talk. You know the story, and she says, you don't know who I am, but I know who you are. I went to school, or you would have went to school. I know your name. I know that you're a bad guy and a guy who liked to fight. You're a drug dealer, something about the mafia. I didn't know much else about you, but I work for a publisher in New York now. I'm in academic publishing, but I have friends and colleagues that work in commercial fiction. I read some of these sample chapters. I'd be willing to read the manuscript, and if it's any good, I could pass it along to some people, if you're interested. So I'm super excited. I had no idea who this chick was, this random chick on Facebook, and I'm like, no idea. And she turned out to have a really crazy story too, and that's the reason why I didn't know her. She was like Cinderella in her family. Her father was a tyrannical Muslim who beat and abused her. She had 5 younger sisters she had to take care of. It was just crazy. Anyways, that's how I never knew who she was. She couldn't go out. She didn't go to a school function. She couldn't go out anywhere. She was just like this quiet, nerdy book reading. Books were her life. Books were her whole life. That's how she escaped from her prison, was reading. And she was a huge reader since she was age 4. All she did was read everything. So I have my friend turn the book into a PDF file and send her the book. She reads it, writes me. She reads it in 3 days, which is, again, 1,100-page manuscript, typed out, single-spaced. And she says, this is the best book I've ever read, flat out. She's like, you are a unicorn. I don't know. Unbelievable. I cannot believe you wasted your talent and you're in there with this type of talent. I want to help you get your book published. I said, I was ecstatic, for years I've been hearing guys tell me how great the books were, but I didn't, now that somebody in publishing stuff out there in the street was telling me this, I was super excited. So we began writing, and the long story short, we ended up falling in love through love letters, right? Not love letters, through letters, but eventually they became love letters, and eventually we fell in love. She committed her life to me, waited 7 years faithfully. I got out 7 years later in 2016. We got married the next day. We started our life, and I published my books To Be a King, and we kind of shot to the top of the mafia genre, and peaked at number 28, and people are saying it's the next Godfather, and blah, blah, blah. So there's that. That's
let
my
me ask you.
overall.
Let me ask you, like, when you have something that, like, once you got in depth with that's your wife now. That in case the audience hasn't seen any of our
Right.
previous shows, that's your wife you're talking
Yep.
about. So you kind of met her halfway through your sentencing. When you have something that you started growing into a stronger relationship with her over a little course of time, do you feel as though like that you got like anxious, and was that actually like making your time feel slower because you wanted to get out to see her, or do you think that it actually gave you something more to look forward to, so it actually was like helping you with your time?
That's a great question. It's a really good question. Surprised nobody's ever asked me that. But you can't even imagine how much better it made the time go. Having one person out there who actually gives a shit. My cousin and my boy Billy and a couple other friends, I talk to them every month or two. They'd send me a couple of bucks, but having somebody normal, a high value woman, beautiful high value woman, 35 years old, no kids, 6-figure executive, super smart, super intelligent, who actually had interest in me. It changed my entire life, man. It changed everything. It gave me hope, and especially when she was like, "I believe in your talent and your writing." It made everything so much easier, so much better. It also made me act better because there were so many times that I wanted to just pulverize a guy in prison. I mean, basically every day. And that's the thing about prison, and we'll talk about that. Every day in prison, I wanted to smash somebody's head in. Every day. Not one day went by. Even the day that I got released, that morning of, I wanted to smash somebody. So it is what it is. But when I knew I had somebody out there who loves me, who cared about me, who was waiting for me, who believed in me, I would turn the other cheek, or I would navigate the line the minefields in a way that I would not get in trouble, not go to the hole, not jack it up. Because the more tickets and the more hole you go, the less likely they are to let you out. Because I had a 50-year tail, which means they could have kept me for 50 years. 13 to 50 doesn't mean you're just going to do 13. They could keep you up. And usually, like 13 to 50 with a tail like that, that means you're a 4-time habitual. They usually go. First time you see them, you're like, do you have anything to say? I'd be like, yes. And like, flop, see you in 2 years. What? And you come back in 2 years and you're like, flop, see you in 2 more years. That's if you got a bunch of tickets and bad behavior on your record, which I didn't. I ended up getting in this college program. That's one thing that saved me. But I didn't get a lot of tickets. My whole 13 years of prison, I got like 7 tickets. Didn't get any violent ones. I got lucky there because I did beat up a couple dudes. But anyways, it definitely helped my life. Things go a lot easier. But towards the end, bro, towards the end, it did slow things down tremendously. But I think that's just normal for anybody who's getting ready to go from home from prison after 13 years, or even a long time. It could be 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years. Doesn't matter. The closer you get to the door, the slower the time goes. And I mean, it's slow, bro. It's slow. You're in there with the worst of the worst type of people, just scumbags, scams, crackheads, liars, cons, violence, rapists, murderers. And you're like, you don't want to be around. If you're a normal guy, I can consider myself normal. I pride myself on being a pretty sane, normal dude. You don't want to be around people like that. Like they disgust you, right? Because they embrace that lifestyle. They embrace that world. I didn't. I rejected that world. In prison, true story, most guys didn't like me, man. Most guys didn't like me in prison because I stayed out of the drama. I stayed away from people. I didn't join a gang. I didn't join a clique. I didn't need a clique or a gang. I walked the yard alone. I worked out the yard alone or with just 1 or 2 guys. I didn't need anybody. Also, everybody knew that I was writing books because the units, there was waiting lists for guys to read my books. I had a waiting list, cell 27, then 29, 14 downstairs across all the unit. There were like 12 guys in line to read one of my books. Everybody's like, this guy's the truth. You got to read his book. So all the other guys, the haters, would be like, oh, this guy thinks he's special because he's writing books. Thinks he's going to go home and be some famous author. Yeah, okay, forget. In the close, and plus when I was in a level 2s and 4s, a lot of the guys are not going home. Like 70% of the guys in the prisons are not going home. So when a guy like me I get on the phone every day for like 2 hours. It's a lot of money. It's expensive. It's like $30 a day I spend on the phone or whatever it is. My wife and family and friends paid for it. And then, so they don't like that because most guys never get on the phone, or if they do, it's like once a week or once a month, if that. Plus, I max out commissary every week. So you're allowed to spend $100 on commissary every week. Every week I get $100, 2 big bags, $100 bags of food. I get secure packs. I get
Now,
visits.
were you eating like with the commissary? Like, I know a lot of guys when they were inside, they were like they were eating like the commissary, like because you know you were active with like the fitness and stuff like that. Were you trying to eat clean, or were you just eating whatever like you know for like coping, like you know I want junk food or
No,
whatever.
everything was clean, bro. I was a bodybuilder, and I could show you pictures of me walking out of prison. You wouldn't believe it. At 43 years old, I walked out with a perfect six pack, 205 pounds, ripped up, tan. You would never believe it. You look at me and go, "That guy's freaking 28 years old." You wouldn't believe it. So I took it serious. Everything I ate was for protein and nutritional value. I would always score uh, food from the chow hall or the garden plots. They had horticultures where they had this like a garden plot. Inmates would have their own gardens. Every time I went to a new joint, first thing I did is get off the bus. First thing I did is ask around, say, I need a kitchen plug, which is a guy who can steal me food from the kitchen, and I need a garden plug. And the garden guy would come to me, and I'd say, what do you got? And he's like, I got peppers, tomatoes, onions, this, that. I said, well, how much for all of it? I'd say, how much? He'd say, well, I'll sell you this for that. I said, no, I want all of it. Like, all of it? Give me 2 bags of coffee a week. I'd say, done. This $7, and I'd have a box of produce under my bed. I make salads, and I make soups, cook-ups with soups. And, I did. And then in the kitchen, like before I went home, I had this black Muslim dude who was stealing me a dozen eggs a day out of the chow hall. And he'd bring them to me, put them in a bag and go down his pants, and he'd walk out. And every day, and all I paid was $20 a month. I have my girl send $20 a month to his account. A dozen eggs every freaking day. I'm making scrambles and souffled eggs and over easies and omelets, and it was crazy. So I ate good for that reason. I ate better. Now, I'm not saying I'm any better than the next guy. I didn't really care what the next guy was doing. I didn't do cook-ups with a bunch of friends and boys like everybody else did. They want to all chip in and do these nasty-ass cook-ups where they just throw everything in, stir it up, and go, do. It's called a do. I'm like, I'm good. Like, I was a chef.
They call it a cheat. Over here, they call it a chi-chi.
Yeah, no, I would make pasta. I would make chicken marinara. I would make lasagna, pizza pockets, calzones, and soups. Soups were my main thing. I did because you could order these packs of chickens. They're like $4 for a pack, but there's like 40 grams of protein. And I'd make these. I get zucchini and summer squash and onions and asparagus, and I put it all in there with the chicken ramen noodles, and I cook them up. It was amazing. I even drop eggs in there for like egg drop. So I try to eat good. I basically was always myself, and then like snacks were like peanuts, and I had a protein shake every day, and yada yada yada. But yeah, it was nice having some support before I got home. But then it got tough because before you go home, everybody kind of knows you're going home. This is a really stupid thing. I don't know why they put us college students. There's 140 of us college students. They put us in a level 2 prison. Typically, when you're short time, they put you in a level 1. On one hand, I would have rather been in the level 2 and level 1 because the level 1s are where there's just a bunch of like crack babies and freaking petty criminals and drug addicts and crackheads. They don't know how to do time. They've only done a year, 2 years, 3 years. They don't know how to do long term. There's not a lot of killers and gangsters and like mother effers in there. So kids and young kids kind of act a fool. People can act a fool and think they can get away with it because there's a bunch of short timers in there and they don't know how to respect. I was in one for 7 months, and they rolled me out to the level 2 because of the college program. Then they put you in a college program, though, and now you're in a prison with 70% guys doing life, and here I am about to go home, and I'm in a college program. So the haters, all the guys that they're like, how am I this freaking guy got a college program? He's going home. He's like, they just intrinsically start to dislike you and hate you the longer they see you like on your way to the door. And
like Gunner, that's outside the prison walls too. I mean, if nobody has any life goals, they live negatively. People hate people that actually find their niche and like get a grip on things. And I always say like instead of using that energy on somebody else, why don't you use your energy to like figure out what's going to be your path? You know what I mean?
Amen, bro. It's exactly the same thing. People out here, I'm always astonished by this, how people out here will focus their time and energy on hating another guy that they don't like for whatever reasons. It's usually jealousy, rather than spend that time and energy on doing something positive or to have a positive ROI. And so you won't have to be jealous of that guy. Like I don't have no hate gene in me, bro. Like I can't even think of anyone I don't like I hate. But if I'm watching a YouTube channel, for example, and there's a guy there, I just don't like his attitude or his content, I just don't follow him. I don't. But there are people who will actually follow a guy they don't like and then stalk everything he does, every video, and then look at every comment he makes to say something negative or stalk or try. I mean, there's people who create little fake videos about me with fake names and fake pro. I'm like, dude, all you do is scream to the world that you have no life, man. Get a freaking life. And it's like that in prison. Like these guys are mad that somebody like me, like I'm in prison, staying out of trouble, doing the right thing. I'm working out, trying to be healthy. I got a girl. I got a couple of friends. I'm actually going home. I got some books that I wrote. People love the books. I got a future. Why wouldn't you be like, damn, man, well done, man? You know, that's I mean, the counselor said to me one time, because of the fan mail thing, they confronted me about it, and he said, "So, what do you think you're better because you write books? You think you're better than everyone because you write books?" I said, "No, I think I've used my time better than most guys because because I write books." I said, "But what do you don't like the fact that I'm trying to create a future for myself, so when I get out, I'm not a freaking loser, so I don't have to go back to the streets? What's your problem? Like, why would you hate on that?"
And it's a strong coping skill to stay out of trouble while you're inside and keep your mind occupied.
Exactly, but they didn't like that. They're not used to it. I mean, 99.9% of the guys in there, they play cards and chess and poker, and they get drunk, they get high, they watch TV, they don't do nothing, they don't care. And then, of course, they get out, they just go
They
right
gossip.
back to
They gossip too.
Oh, gossip. It's horrible, bro. It's horrible.
They're like a bunch of. I hate to say it like this, but it's like a bunch of females.
Yeah, like a bunch of females. I'd say that to them. And the other thing is, this is one of the main sources of animus they had towards me was being a big white guy, right? I was able to walk the yard alone. I went in the weight pit and worked out. I'm strong. I'm not the strongest guy in the compound, but definitely in the top 10% of strongest guys in the compound. One of the dudes for sure. Black dudes a lot of times because they were kind of genetically bred for work. They have good genetics. But I worked out with them and trained with them. But everybody sees who's strong, who's in shape, who's what. But most of the guys, black and white, all join a gang or a religious gang, Islam or Odinism or Aryan Nation, or just like gangs like the Latin Counts or whatever. The reason they do that is because they're scared. They come to prison. Before prison, they had a gun and some guys in the street, and rather than fight, because almost none of them ever fought, they've been in 3 fights in their life, lost 2 of them. They shot a guy or whatever because he freaking looked at him wrong or hit on his girlfriend or stepped on his shoe, whatever the case is. Then they send him in prison and they open the gate and say, all right, go in. Now you're in the gladiatorial arena with freaking monsters, bro. I mean, the worst of the worst. These are really bad guys. And they're scared. Scared. And then all of a sudden somebody comes up and goes, hey, young blood, listen, man, I see you walking alone. Listen, run with us. We'll have your back. You don't got to worry about nothing. If you need to make money, we'll help you make a little money. If you need getting some drama, we'll get you out of it. We'll have your back. You know what I'm saying? If you're hungry, we'll feed you. And of course the kid's like, yeah, okay. And they join up. And then they become crash test dummies for the leaders. Go stab this guy. Go slice that guy. Go steal this.
It comes with a price.
Yeah, it comes with a price. And then I've seen guys who went down with 5 years and ended up leaving, doing 15, 20 years. I've seen guys who are about to go home in 5, 6 months, stab a guy, and then a white dude. I remember today I was in the chow hall, man. I was getting ready to walk out. My friend, was one of the Aryan guys. I was walking out with my friend, Richard St. Pierre. I'm still friends with him on Facebook. He's my boy. He was my workout partner. I get up, start walking, and he stops. He goes, hold on, Al, back up. I said, what's up? He goes, hold on. Now he knows it's going down. So the mark is walking out of the chow hall. There's 2 doors, like a set of doors, to kind of keep the heat in or whatever. And all of a sudden, the first guy walks in the door, and the second guy behind him, runs up and stabs him a bunch of times. Bang, 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 bang. So Rich was trying to protect me from walking in on this. That dude had 5 months left to go. They caught him, got him with a freaking attempted manslaughter or attempted murder or whatever, and they gave him another 5 years. What an idiot! What an idiot! Why would you do that? What kind of dummy? I've seen guys who refuse to stab a guy or slice a guy. They call it a $1.50. In prison, when you take a razor and you slash a guy's face, it's called a buck.
Chin. Yep.
Yeah, they call it $1.50 for 150 stitches to put it back together. You see guys in prison all the time with the $1.50 scar. Somebody got them, and I've seen guys freaking, do that to guys and end up with years and years. Like, what is the point? Like, I seen guys refuse to do it and then get stabbed because they wouldn't do it. Their gang said, you got to slice this guy. You got to get this guy off the yard. That's how they get a guy like me off the yard. Like, if you don't want to stab a guy and get an attempted murder case, but you got to get the big white boy off the yard or whatever, this is your orders, then you go, and I'm in my chow hall, guy walks behind me and just goes with a razor and freaking slices me and whatever. Then of course, I got to get stitches, and the administration goes, what happened? I'm like, I don't know. They're like, well, we're going to ride you out to another joint. And then you go to the hole for a couple of weeks, heal up, and they throw you in another prison. So I seen guys who wouldn't do it, who were like gangsters, tough gangsters. And then all of a sudden that guy, because he wouldn't do it, gets stabbed or sliced or beat up or whatever. I seen so much, man, just crazy ass, ridiculous drama on the yard, bro. It's insane. But really, I mean, the reason they didn't like me is because I walked alone. I didn't need a gang. And that drives them crazy. Especially the Nation of Islam kind of guys. And the thing about them was, man, like the leaders of the Nation of Islam, I was always kind of cool with them and close because they really respected me for being a lone wolf, right? They also knew some of my family, and they knew who I was. As soon as I hit the yard, somebody would sit. I always knew somebody from the street. There were always guys in the prison that knew me from the street or knew of me. So they would go to the leaders and go, that guy, he's to somebody, or he's off limits, or this is who his people are, this is family. And they would get to the leaders, and then they'd introduce themselves, and I'd be like, what's up? And some of them, I actually helped them like work on books and stuff. I used to eat with the head Nation Islam guy named Ellen Bay all the time. In fact, when a guy stole $70 off my phone, on my pin on my phone, he gave me a green light to beat the kid's ass. It was a young black kid, and I said, this dude stole $70 off my pin number on my phone. He says, you sure he did it? I said, positive. I said, I tried to help him. I gave him my pin number because he said he had a family emergency and he needed to call home. Could he have one call on my pin? I said, yeah, bro, no big deal. It's this tall, skinny black kid. He's probably 22, 23 years old. Next day, I checked my phone, and $70 is gone off my pin. So I said, all right. I went to Ellen Bay, the head Mobite on the compound, who locked down the hall for me in my unit. And we used to eat together. He used to make this banana pudding. He was really good at making banana pudding. It was really good. And he knew I liked it. So every time him and his whole crew would make like 20 bowls of it to eat, he'd come down my cell, knock on the door. This big, huge black dude, man. He's like 6'6", 350-pound motherfucker. Huge. He talked like an educated white guy. He sounded like an educated white guy. Really nice. And he'd go, here you go, Al, and he'd give me a bowl. I'd say, hey, man, you need any money for it? He said, no. And so he liked me. So I went down to his cell. I said, hey, B, this freaking kid did this. He said, you sure? I said, yeah. I said, can I get the green light to get him? He says, yeah. We don't do that, is what he said. We don't operate like that. So get him. So I went in the kid's cell and beat the shit out of him and didn't have any recourse. I got the green light from the boss. But they liked me. A lot of those guys liked me. But the lower level tier guys, a lot of them are idiots. You know what I'm saying? They're like young punks, and they're loudmouths, and act like they're tough because I got 12,000 guys in the system that got their back. They act like punks. The old guys, the old heads, they don't. But the young guys, they're knuckleheads. So those guys, I was supposed to be afraid of them, right? According to the law of prison, white guy supposed to be a lone white guy. Not if you're in a gang, because if you're in a gang, then it's like, they get it. But if a lone white dude isn't scared and doesn't bow to the big bad black man, Nation of Islam or whatever, something's wrong. Like then they want to. Then what they think is he's crazy, or they think he's a real bad mother effer. That's what they think. They think the guy must be a bad mother effer or he's crazy. But sometimes they must have thought I was a little bit of both but they didn't like it. They didn't like it. There was guys who didn't like me simply because I wasn't scared of them. I wouldn't back down from them. I wouldn't bite my tongue around them. Sometimes they would just say something slick, and I said, "Hey man, if you like off to the side about me," I said, "Hey man, I'm right here. If you want to say something to me, come say it to me. Or we can go out in the back or in the bathroom or do whatever, bro, like man to man. But don't go over there talking about me with your buddies. I'm right here." They didn't like that. They infuriate them. These big mother. I'm like, dude, but I know you're a coward. You came down when you were 17 years old. You've been locked up 30 years. You got in 2 fights. They were broken up in 10 seconds by the cops. You lost one of them. I'm like, dude, you're not a tough guy. Just because you can bench press 500 pounds, that don't make you a tough guy, bro. The fights that I was in the street, the hundreds of fights that I was in the streets when I was a kid, there wasn't no cops coming in my rescue. There was nobody coming to my rescue. Sometimes I was fighting 2-3 guys at one time. It was a fight to the death, or just like you were fighting, but wasn't nobody coming to save you. That's for sure. It was either do or die. And the fights could last 5 or 10 minutes. Brawls go on and on and on, across bars and fights. I said, you guys in prison have been protected for all these years in prison. You're not tough guys. You get in a fight and the cops break it up in 5 seconds. That's not. You're not a tough guy. Stop. I tell them that. I say it right to them. I'd be like, listen, man. You guys are tough. Now that's not to say there aren't tough guys in there. There certainly is. Look, I'll tell you a quick story. It's a good one about when I was in Ryan Road Prison. I got to Ryan Road Prison. My bunkie was this gay black dude. He was but he wasn't effeminate. You know what I'm saying? He was just a black dude, tall, kind of muscular, 6 foot, 6'1", ripped up, probably 180 pounds. Nice looking kid. But he had an affair going with this other black dude named Dominique, who was actually kind of a stocky, muscle-bound dude, who's black as midnight and ugly as hell. But she was gay. He was super gay, like effeminate, right? So they had an ongoing love affair, but like in the prison. They'd sit together and hold hands and talk and all this stuff. He'd sneak out of his cell at night and go sneak into like the girls' cell or whatever, and then come back in the morning. It was just crazy stuff. So one day, I said to him, I said, I don't care what you do in your life. I said, just leave it, keep it out of the cell. Like, I don't want to see it. I don't want it in here. I don't want none of that. He says, yeah, I respect that. I respect that. And he was pretty short time. He only had like a year left. So one day I come in from the yard. I just got done working out. I got about 10 minutes to get my stuff and go take a shower. I don't like jumping on my bunk after I worked out without taking a shower. But there's a bunch of guys. There's a card table in front of my cell, and all my boys who play cards there all freaking day long. They're all watching. And I walk up. I go, "What's up?" He's like, "They in there fighting, Dominique and your bunkie." And I'm like, "Really?" I walk up. I look in there, and they're fighting and wrestling and scratching. And I give them a couple of minutes, and finally I open the door and I said, "Listen, man, get out of my cell." To the big freaking super gay dude. I said, "Get out of my cell, bro." He's like, "This is his cell too." I said. And then I get really serious. He's got a lock in his hand. He actually took my lock off my locker and wrapped it in his finger, and he was whacking my bunkie with his lock. They were both bleeding. And I get dead ass serious, man. And I said, dude, as long as I lock in this cell, this is my cell. I don't give a F about him or you. I said, I'll beat both your asses. Get the F out of my cell. And he starts going, oh, let's see, this is between me and I said, I don't give a shit what between him. This is my cell. Get the fuck out of my cell. And I said, you got 5 seconds to get out of my cell. And I turned like this, and I grabbed the wrist. It had the lock, right? I grabbed it really hard. He tried pulling it out, and I said, 5. And he's trying to pull his hand out of my wrist. I go, 5, 4, 3. And right about 2, he lets go of the lock, and he turns around and he walks out. I was going to break his jaw. I was going to knock him out, flat out. So he leaves. About a week later, I'm sitting in the cell, typing, laying on my bunk. Got my prison typewriter right here. Believe it or not, this is my typewriter in prison. This is the created the magic. Her name is Bella. She was my mistress. I'm laying on my bunk, on my belly, typing, doing what I do, working on one of my books. I don't know, I was probably on my 7th book at the time. And this huge black dude comes named Nunu. I'd learn it in a minute. Huge black dude, like one of those genetic freaking monsters. Who was about, I don't know, probably about 6'2", about 270, wide as a freaking house. He had these like weird braids, so he had these like twists, these 2 weird twists right here. He was black as hell. I knew he was from Flint. He was just a big mother effer, but I didn't really know the guy. He opens the door because it's summertime, so you leave the door cracked to get airflow. He pushes the door open. He looks up at me. I'm on my bunk, and he goes, "I need a cell for a minute, dog." To me, like he was trying to say, I need to be alone with your bunkie for a minute. I need a cell for a minute, dog. So I start, all right, cool. Yeah, that's respect, I start to climb down, and my bunkie goes, no, Al, don't go. What's up, man? What's going on? He goes, I need a cell, dog. I need a cell for a minute. And my bunkie goes, Al, please don't go. And I'm thinking about, okay, if they're going to be in here banging out, fighting, I don't want to get my TV and my typewriter broken. So I'm worried about that. That's all I care about. I don't care about my bunkie. And I say to the dude, I said, listen, man, I'm just going to stick around. I don't want to get my shit tore up right there. He goes, all right, man, whatever. And he pushes his way in, and he grabs my bunkie by the throat, smashes him up against the wall. And I'm telling you, my bunkie wasn't no little dude either. He grabs the dude, smashes him up against the wall, puts a knife to his eye. He goes, "Motherfucker, leave my name out your mouth, motherfucker." I said, "I'll cut your freaking eyes out." And he's like shoving it in the side of his eye. And then he's like, "All right, man." My bunkie's like, "All right, man. All right, Nunu, all right." He says, "Keep my name out your fucking mouth." Wham! And just slaps the dude. Boom! Like knocks him like this. And he comes back up. He says one more time, "Out your fucking mouth." Bam! Slaps him again, bro. And then the dude's like, all right. And he turns around and leaves. So a couple of minutes later, I said to my bunkie, I said, "What the frick, bro? I told you, leave this shit out of the cell, bro. Why are you bringing this shit in the cell, this drama? Now I'm involved in this bullshit, man." He's like, "No, it wasn't like this." Like he said, Dominique and him used to be a couple, and now I am. You don't. I don't give a shit about none of this freaking gay shit, bro. Leave it out of the cell, bro. Don't bring it in the cell more. Get the frick out. He's like, "I'm sorry, Al. I'm sorry, Al." So I climbed down off the bunk about 5 minutes later, and I go walking down the rock. There's 2 floors, and there's like a day room in the middle. And I go walking in the hall. Here comes this big black motherfucker, Nunu. He comes walking up to me, man. He's a big ass dude. He goes, "What's up, Al?" He says, "What's up, man? My name's Nunu." He goes to shake my hand. I shake his hand. I said, "Al." He's like, "Listen, man, they didn't have nothing to do with you, bro. We're good." I said, "Yeah, we're good." I said, "I don't give a shit about him, bro. I'm just trying to keep my stuff from getting broken. I do whatever you want. Go in there and tear his ass up. I don't care." I told him, "Leave that shit out the cell." He said, "All right, bro, we're good." So it's not over because that was that. And then about 2 weeks later, my bunkie locks up, which is voluntarily checks himself into the hole. I don't know why, but the cops come by my cell during count time. He's not there. I'm wondering where he is. Like, why isn't he in the cell for count? Cop hands me a garbage bag and says, "You want to pack up your bunkie, keep whatever you want. He's in the hole. He's going home in 2 weeks. He locked up. So whatever he has, feel free to keep whatever." I'm like, "Oh, all right, cool." So I start packing up all the stuff. I keep all his food and commissary, which is like $30 for the food and commissary. There's a couple pair of sweatpants. I kept those. That's about it. And a bunch of tapes. So there's about 10 tapes, right? And tapes got a lot of value in prison because people still have cassette tape players, and these are old school tapes like Houdini and Run DMC and LL Cool J and Beastie Boys, Slick Rick. These old, and I like that stuff. So I don't think I had a tape player anymore, but I still, I said I'll sell them. So I pack all this stuff up and keep whatever, and then after count, Nunu comes over to the cell and goes, "What's up, man? You pack them up?" I said, "Yeah." He's like, "You didn't get his tapes, did you? You didn't get my tapes, did you?" I was like, "What tapes?" He's like, "No, he had my tapes. He had a bunch of my tapes. I lended them to Dominique, and she let him have them." And I'm in my mind thinking, I think it's a shakedown. I think he's just telling me that they were his tapes, so I'll give them to him. But 10 tapes got about, at least $50 worth of value, which is a lot of money in prison. It's like, $5,000 out here or whatever, like $1,000, whatever. So I think he's just lying to try to get me to give him the tapes. So I'm like, "Nah, man, wasn't no tapes, nothing like that." So then over the next day or two, I tell my friend, what the frick's his name? I'm friends with him on Facebook, and I've had him on this show, believe it or not. Anyways, what was his freaking name? Anyways, this fat, dumpy kid, another kid from Flint. I said, I'm Saginaw. I think it's from Saginaw. Anyways, I said, "You want to sell these tapes for me?" He's like, "What do you mean?" I said, "Here's 10 tapes. Give me $3 a piece for them. Sell them for 5 or 6. They're all yours." He says, "All right, bet." So now he's on the yard, walking around the yard saying, "Tapes for sale, tapes for sale, tapes for sale." And then Nunu dude hears that he's selling these tapes. So he goes over to him and said, "Yo, those are my tapes." And he says, "No, I'm selling these for Al. They're Al's tapes." So now Nunu comes back to my cell and like mad. He's like, "What's up, man? I thought you didn't get no tapes." He's like, "I need my tapes." I said, "Man," and I had drawn a line in the sand years before when I was in prison. I said, nobody's going to extort me. Nobody's going to cut into me. Nobody's going to extort me. I'm not going for it. If I got to fight or got to do whatever I got to do, I'm going to do it. But nobody's just going to punk me. So now I feel like he's trying to punk me just to say, "Those were my tapes. Give me my tapes." And I think it's bullshit. And I say, "Bro, how do I know those are your tapes? They were in his property. They said, keep whatever I want. I don't know if you're taking," and it gets real serious. And he goes, "Listen, bro, I've had those tapes for like 10 years. They're my tapes. I'm cool with Dominique. I let Dominique get them. He lended them to him because we all became cool." He's like, "They're my tapes, bro. I've had them for years. I still have some of the covers." I said, "I don't know, bro. Seems like a shakedown to me. I'm not giving you the tapes." And he says, "You serious?" I said, "Yeah, I'm serious." He says, Okay then." And he turns around to walk out, and he walks out. And in that instant, I said to myself, this could go bad. This could go really bad, man. Because this guy, he ain't no joke. He ain't afraid to, he pulled a knife, was going to stab the dude. He's a big old dude. Got a big crew, probably in the nation. So I said, this is stupid. What am I doing? I'm trying to freaking make a couple bucks. So I opened the door and I kind of step out after him. I said, Nunu. He said, what's up? I said, I got 5 tapes left and I sold 3. What do I owe you? He says, give me $8. I said, all right, done. Come on. He comes back. I did fish around in my commissary. I gave him $8 of the stuff that I took from my bunkie, bag of Doritos and some cheese and whatever. And I gave him the tapes. I said, here you go, bro. It ain't worth it to me. And he keeps saying, I'm telling you, bro, this is my tape. These are my tapes. These are my tapes. But it was funny. The last funny thing about that dude was when I was coming in about a week later he knew I was like a tough guy. And I'm coming from the yard from working out one day, and I'm walking by base in the day room area, right? And he was punking out these white dudes from Flint. He was like, all I heard is of them walking by. He goes, I'll beat all your white boys' ass. I'll beat all your white boys' ass. And I stop, and I look at. I go, you talking to me, man? And he goes, no, I'm talking to these guys. And I was like, okay then. And I kept walking, like I was ready to fight. I'll beat all your ass. What, man? And he's like, nah, not you, man. These freaking guys. And these guys, by the way, he was talking to, they were all like gangbangers. So he basically punked them all out. But yeah, in prison, dude, there's always a lot of drama that can happen. But it's up to you to figure out how to navigate. And we could be here all day. I could be telling story after story after story. I've seen guys get stabbed. I've seen guys get beaten. I've seen guys, everything. Do you have any particular stories you want to hear?
No, I mean, I was actually gonna wrap it up by asking you one last question, in regards to today's interview, which was, fantastic. Thank you for your time and everything. The one thing I did want to ask you was, if you rewind back to the earlier part when we talked about, your early days when you first got, to like the county level and you were waiting to get your sentencing and get shipped upstate and everything like that, before you actually found your purpose and your niche and everything like that, did you, day one, once you got pulled into when you were waiting, like, for your trial and everything like that, day one, when you went to jail, when you said, no matter what happens out of this, I know I'm going to be doing some serious time. At that point in time in your head, were you thinking in your head, no matter how much time I do, I'm going to come out the old me? Or is it going to be a new you when you come out?
I didn't think, I wasn't even thinking that far ahead at the time, bro. I was still in shock, terrified, worried. I'm going to get all these years in prison. There was no concept of a future, what I'm going to do. I was worried about my girlfriend, my cat, just life, survival. I didn't start thinking about a future until after that time in the hole, where I discovered, I was sitting there writing these stories in my mind, and I started to realize, wow, I'm really good at this. Like, I could write this. And I had no formal literary training. I have an 8th grade education, by the way. Not even. I got expelled from 8th grade twice.
Yeah, we talked about that in the previous interview. We were talking about that.
And I have no formal education. But I did like to read. I wasn't like a tremendous reader, but I probably had read at that point 100 books in my life, or maybe 150. I don't know, quite a few books. So I like to read, which gave me a general concept, an idea of the syntax of how to write a story or whatever. But it came very, very natural to me. In fact, it came so natural to me that I knew it was a special gift. I mean, it just came super easy. And even to this day, because I'm a writing coach today, I coach writers. And, sometimes writers want to be coached and they're very difficult and they have a hard time learning. Sometimes it's very easy. It's very rare. I'd say 1 out of every 10 writers I coach perhaps are natural writers, and it just comes natural. Not everybody is. But it came super natural to me, so I knew I had something special, and I wanted to use it. I wanted to run with it. And the more I used it, the more I thought to myself, I could create a future like this. I could actually make a living, or I could actually create a life doing something that I enjoy,
it's something that's respectable, something that's honorable, something that people can be proud of. And so I just kept grinding, and it literally, it's funny because in your mind you have a vision of how things are going to play out, and in my mind I figured I get out of prison, probably go live with my dad or live by my dad. He'd get me a partner or something like that, and I'd publish my books, and within a year or two probably become famous as a writer, become a best-selling author, maybe get a movie deal, and I'd be out there riding in Lambos and whatever. But at the very least, I figured it would give me a chance to live a normal life. But it's so different. It didn't work out like that. You know what I'm saying? It ended up where I met this woman, and one thing led to another. And, but I do live a good life. I have a beautiful home and on 20 acres in northern Michigan. It's kind of my own version of paradise. I got 6 chickens, 4 cats, beautiful wife, and a couple toys. And I live a great life. And all of it is a result of my writing. The writing is what brought me to this place in my life. So mission complete, even though I had a certain vision of my mission back then of how it would get me there. Ultimately, the ending was kind of the same. Now, right now, I'm involved in some big projects, like a TV project and possibly a reality show project. I have another novel that's about to drop this year, and a lot of things that could change, the outcome of my life very quickly. Regardless, I'm already here. I'm happy. I'm successful. I live a good, wholesome, clean life. I have an amazing wife and friends. So, I mean, ultimately, the change was real. I decided to change. I wanted to change, and I just changed. Now I look back at the old me and I cringe. I'm just like, oh my God, what a freaking idiot I was, What a waste of talent and humanity. When people who are out there who are using drugs or doing crime or, like you said earlier, hating on other people, trolling. It's like, what? Dude, our time on earth is so precious and short. Spend that time doing something positive like you are right now. This show is something positive, regardless of the content, me being the content. Like, you're doing something positive for your life. This is going to help propel and advance you as your person, as your career, your future, whatever. It's positive. It has a positive ROI, return on investment. People, for whatever reason, are so caught up in the negative. It just they dwell on it. They see the envy and jealousy. They hate to see somebody doing good. They hate to. It's just, there's 2 types of people in this world. There's winners and losers, right? I guess what happens when somebody wins? It doesn't matter if it's a game or a race. Whenever there's a winner, who's left behind? Losers. See what I'm saying? If it's a game, a race, whatever. Whenever somebody wins, in their path are left losers. So just remember that it's not your fault. Choose your path. Work hard, dedicate, commit. The thing is, there's no excuses. Outwork the next guy. Work harder. Do better. Study longer. You
So I
want to be
say,
big?
if you want it, like you see somebody else's life that you're comparing your life to, and it's not good to compare, but if you see somebody else's life that looks grass is greener on the other side, and you want their life, don't
Make it.
badmouth them. Don't be jealous of them. Go out and get that life.
Yeah.
Go out, become their equal. But it's going to take sacrifice, hard work, and getting off your ass and strategically figuring out how you're going to manage to do that. It's going to take patience too. I mean, what my opinion is of you and why I think me and you bond so well together as our friendship, I believe that we have a lot of similarities, and my opinion, and I say this with the least amount of disrespect, so I hope it doesn't come out that way. But I mean, take for instance what you just said, like less than 5 minutes ago. You had an eighth grade education before you went into prison. Today, you're an author. You're about ready to launch into a TV series, reality series. You have an apparel company. You're a writing coach. You do virtual personal training for people. I mean, it's endless what you do on a daily basis, and it all breaks down to the stories you told here today when you were doing your prison sentence, working out, getting your college credits. Writing your books. You stayed busy and you used all that energy and transferred it into positive energy instead of getting wrapped up in the nonsense and using that energy as negative energy. And it shows today, the person you became today.
Yeah, that's the thing. And anyone can change at any given time. You don't have to go down this path of self-destruction that I went through. That's my whole hope and prayers are that you don't have to hit the bottom that I did in order to turn yourself around. You can be right now jobless, living on Social Security, living in your aunt's basement, and life sucks, right? But then you could watch this show and go, you know what? If he can do what he did in prison, what's stopping me? What is stopping you? Nothing. You are stopping you. If you want to become wealthy in business, buy books that teach how to become wealthy in business. I promise you, if you start reading them, not one or two, read 5, read 10, read 20, read them all. Within a year, you're going to start. You'll start making money. You'll open a business. You'll get investments. You'll say, that's what people do. The
Now's the
people who
time. Now's the time to make money. You can make money from your phone. You can.
anything.
There's so many endless opportunities. If you have a car, you can literally pay for the car payment as long as you have your license in order. Everything. You could do Uber. You could do DoorDash. There's so many easy ways to make legal money nowadays. You
Yeah.
can start going around junking your house and create an eBay account from your phone. Take two items that's sitting in the corner of your house a day and resell them and maybe make some money off of them. There's so many extra things you can do, and it's just
Yeah, but
people don't want to do it.
you just said, but there's so many things you can do. The problem is so many people don't want to do it. It's not they are lazy. They want to make excuses. They want to say life is mean, life is tough, it's been unfair. So and so was mean to me. My ex did this. It's all you, man. Like judges sentenced me to prison, prosecutors, cops in prison were mean to me. On and on and on. I have a million people I can blame for failing. If I fail, I can blame everybody, the system. No, just go do it, man. Find a way. In the intro of my radio show, and the very first thing it says is, I say, listen, if you're not good at something, find something that you are good at. And if you don't know anything about that, learn. That's it. Start
People have a
reading.
hard time with accountability. You got to hold yourself accountable.
Exactly.
You wake up late. You start saying on Monday I'm gonna start my gym regimen. Monday morning comes, you sleep through your alarm. Hold yourself accountable. Say,
Yeah.
well, don't say, oh, I was tossing and turning all night. I couldn't get a good night's sleep. No, say to yourself, it doesn't matter if you're tired or not. Like, you know, do something. Once a day, you should challenge yourself to do something you absolutely don't want to do and push yourself to do it. That'll just make you
Well,
stronger for the long run.
if there's one thing that all losers have in common, and I mean that not in the most derogatory way possible, but I'm just saying literally, losers, the one thing all the losers have in common, whether it's in sports or academics or whatever it is, they make excuses. And all right, so there's one thing that winners all have in common. They don't make excuses. They hold themselves accountable, like you said. They work harder. If they fail, and they always will fail, trust me, you're going to fail, 99 times out of 100 at everything you do. But eventually, if you work hard and you persist and you grind, you will win. All right.
Stay consistent.
That's what stay consistent. Winners win. That's it. You're not going to get buff in your first workout. It's going to take years of workout, right? And you're not going to write a novel in a day, right? It could take years to write that novel. You're not going to start a successful, thriving business in a day. It could take you years. But the difference between the people who have built a successful business that's been open 3, 4, 5 years and the people who are jealous of the person, because let's face it, the haters and the trolls and the people who they're just very jealous and envious because they can't do what the guy's doing, right? But the thing is, maybe you could if you actually tried, but you don't try. You just make excuses. You would rather attack a guy and belittle a guy or besmudge a guy or just waste your time stalking a guy than actually applying your own energy, talents, and life skills to actually being something. And that's just the way of the world, man. So whenever you look out there in the sea of world and you see there's every 100th guy, there's that very successful person with the boat and the yacht or the house or whatever. Trust me, man, I tell you, what they all have in common is that guy never gave up. He never made excuses, and he certainly didn't stalk some person they didn't like. You know what I'm saying? They may have stalked the guy they didn't like to see what he was like how I can learn from him, but there's no hate. Like the people who are successful don't have time to hate. They don't
They
care
don't
to hate.
know people that look at that and they're like, I want that. They don't know how long that guy's road was or what he walked on that road in order to get into that position. They just look at the now. You
Yeah.
have to, and being that you were previously in addiction and I was previously in addiction, we suffer from instant gratification. That's something that once you cope with instant gratification, you realize stuff takes time, hard work, patience, sacrifice, and you start slowing yourself down, but you stay consistent at a consistent basis, good things start coming faster.
Well, it's like if there's one thing that prison taught me, it was patience. You know what I'm saying? I was steady on the grind. I was that little turtle in the race and just kept going, kept going, kept going. Even though I was surrounded by negative, I was surrounded by haters. It didn't matter. Even though I had really very little hope at the end of the tunnel, I just kept going. And as I kept going, here's how it worked. I wrote those first few books, right? And my cousin was like, wow, this guy's super talented, has a lot of potential someday. So he says, I'm going to build you a Facebook. And another friend said, I'm going to help you put chapters out there. Next thing you know, somebody discovered those chapters. That person wrote me. That person fell in love with me. Today I'm here with her. You see what I'm saying? There's a progression. I just kept going, kept going, kept going. And even though taking these little tiny baby steps from prison, it seemed almost impossible to take one day at a time in this horrible draconian environment, I just kept plugging away, man. But that's why I don't mean to like belittle anybody, but I kind of laugh at people who make the excuses today. I'm like, you think you got it bad? You read that post of that picture, post it here in the end. And if you read what I wrote in that lion's den, right, you can see that even in the very beginning of my time in prison, I was committed to do something with my life. And I said, someday I'm going to be something. I'm going to do something. And that was when I was in the county jail 20 years ago. And I did it because, nothing was going to dissuade me or keep me from getting to where I am. So there's no excuses. That's my main thing is, people who are always making excuses, stay away from them, man. And just, if you don't like to those people, if you don't like a guy, whatever, some people don't like some people. My advice to you is find something that you're passionate about and you're good at, something you have a talent for, and focus your time and energy on that. If you don't have much money, get a job at McDonald's, work your way up to manager. You make $25 an hour, save some of that money so you can buy a studio, maybe do a podcast, maybe do a little video, maybe do movies, make little mini movies, make little mini movies with the iPhones and stuff like that. And you learn how to edit it down and you publish it on YouTube. Before you know it, you could be getting a multi-million-dollar contract with like Pixar or Disney or something. That's how it happens. But just making excuses, saying, this guy's an asshole, or just saying, I'm going to smoke this vape pen. I'm going to play this freaking video game. I'm going to lay around and do nothing. And then make excuses. Don't be surprised when you are nothing and you have nothing, right? But certainly don't be jealous of the guy that does have something, who worked hard. Cheer for him, root for him. Say, well done, man. You know what I'm saying? And there's guys, like you said, I look at, there's lots of guys I'm envious. Lots of guys I'm envious. I'm friends with Michael Francis. And I talk to him. I've told him right to his face. I had dinner with him. I said, you're a guy that I envy, that I look up to and that I aspire to be like. It's okay to envy somebody. Jealous? No. Envy is like, hey, man, well done. You're kicking ass. I'd love to get to where you are someday, right? If a guy has a certain skill set or not, Patrick Bet-David for Valuetainment, probably my favorite guy on YouTube. Incredibly talented, came from a humble beginnings, very talented, very smart. I look at him and go, bro, if I could ever grow up and be like you someday, I'd be perfectly happy with my life. Like, I'd satisfied. I look forward to
my
meeting
inspiration to podcast.
Yeah, I look forward to meeting him. I've talked to Mario, his producer, and I probably will end up going on his show at some point in the next year or so for the TV thing. But I look forward to meeting him, and I sit down with him saying, hey, man, you've been a big inspiration to me because there's no excuses. Everything I believe, everything that you say, I value and also believe in, And so if a guy like you can do this and become worth hundreds of millions of dollars, Patrick Bet-David is probably worth $300-400 million. Very, very successful. And so how did he do it? Well, he read, he studied, he worked, he grinded, he did everything that most of us aren't willing to do, including me. If I would study and grind on business the way he did or does, I'd be worth millions and millions of dollars. I just don't have it in me. I'm too whimsical. I want to go fishing. I work on my books, which are fun and fantastical. And then when I'm done working all day, I got to pay some bills with some of my other jobs. But then I want to go ride my four-wheeler, go fishing or whatever. Nah, not him. He's like, I'm going to go straight in and read another book on business, and then start designing a prospectus and a business plan, an outline, and market analysis, blah, 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 blah. And now here he is at 43 years old, worth freaking $500 million or whatever. Well done, man. I admire that. I'm very envious of that. Not jealous. I'm never going to be jealous of another man, because that just means I'm hating. But I am envious. So it's okay to be envious. Aspire to be like people you admire. That's what my end message.
Well, Gunnar, I appreciate you coming out today once again, and it's always a pleasure, meeting up with you and linking up with you. I always think we talk about some good stuff. Always a message sent with intentions to reach out to the audience for those people that are struggling out there, whether it's suffering from, addiction, self-pity, trying to become a better you. I hope somebody got something out of this, and they put down the excuses and put on their working boots and get ready to rock and roll,
Yeah, so
But
my wife, because I've been kind of put on a media hiatus by my producer, who said no more little shows, and that's no offense to you. By little, he says no more shows under like 500,000 subscribers. They want me to do big shows, and I'm like, my wife said, "What are you doing the show?" He's like, "Does David know?" And I'm like, this kid, I like this kid. He's got a good message, and I want to help him out. So I'm gonna, give him a good, show. So I just did it because I wanted to help you, and hopefully we can inspire some people and reach some people who need it. And there's always going to be someone who's going to go, I don't like this guy. He's too cocky. He's this, that. He's too self-inflated. He believes he's the greatest guy, whatever. I'm like, no, no, no. I'm just a guy who worked really hard. I do have a very unique talent as a writer. Not sure how I got it or why. No, God gave it to me. If you have any question about my quality of my writing ability as an artist, read the books and you'll come back and go, wow, now I see why he's a little cocky with his book. They're that good. But really, other than that, I'll be the first to claim I'm not that good at most things. I'm just here to tell you that find one thing that you're really good at it, become passionate about it, and chase it. Chase that dream. Dream big, man. You only live once. Life is short, so go for it, man. Dream freaking big. Scott, you in 5 years, you could be as big as Valuetainment right now. So, I mean, you got to start somewhere. Valuetainment started somewhere. PBD did. Everybody starts somewhere. You know what I'm saying? So you have to start somewhere and grind. And this avoid my last message to everyone. We touched on this is just ignore haters, ignore negative people, and just stay positive and learn as much as you can about the thing that you want to do, and just grind and grind and grind. Ultimately, haters will become fans. Because as you become successful, they're all going to be like, oh, I know this guy, or I met this guy, or I knew this guy. Or maybe they just crawl in a hole and just hate you from afar. Doesn't matter. It won't affect your life. Only person who's going to affect your life is you. That's it. Don't be your biggest hater. Be your biggest champion. Say, I can. Believe you can. If we can, you can. That's what we're saying.
all right, well, thanks everybody, and it was always a pleasure. And thank you, Gunnar, and I hope you have a
Yep.
great weekend, man.
Thanks, man. Call me if you
Peace
need me.
out. Stay in
Yep.
touch.
Yep.